If someone had told me the loneliest guest would be the billionaire by the window, I'd have claimed a different corner. She had mastered the trick of vanishing where everyone could see. Ivy Valdez kept to a seat at the rear of the reception hall, beside a floral arrangement that reeked of too much lavender and counterfeit celebration. No one glanced her way. No one ever did. The clinking of champagne glasses, the blur of laughter and silk dresses, the quiet melodies of the string quartet, it all washed over her like a tide. She was never meant to swim. She was accustomed to it. She had even dressed for it. Sleek black satin, understated makeup, her thick dark hair pinned in a chignon that murmured elegant rather than, "Please look closer." Her chair matte black, custom built to fade instead of shine, waited beneath her as if apologizing for being seen. Her hands lay neatly folded in her lap. Her mouth wore a practiced polite smile, and inside she was counting the minutes until she could leave. This was her cousin's wedding after all. Family, blood. But even blood had a way of turning transparent when people didn't know what to say around you, or when they said too much, too cheerfully, too loudly, and then looked away with pity sparkling behind their eyes. Ivy had built empires, crashed glass ceilings with diamond wheels. Her name could move markets, collapse competitors. But in rooms like this, she was still just the woman in the chair, alone, watching, invisible. She took another sip of her champagne, letting the bubbles sting the inside of her mouth just to feel something. That's when she saw her across the room, spinning away from a crowd of relatives, laughing too brightly, her dress the color of wildfire and rebellion. Cassandra Solano, the bride's new sister-in-law. Hey, if you're enjoying this story, go ahead and drop a like to help us grow even more. And let me know in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, what score would you give this story so far? Your feedback makes all the difference. Ivy officially met her yet. She'd only heard snippets. Graphic designer, independent, a bit chaotic, possibly queer. According to her cousin's whispered attempt at being inclusive. Cassandra didn't walk. She glided like the room existed around her but didn't define her. Her smile wasn't polite. It was sharp. Alive, like it could split open the air and let the truth in. Ivy stared longer than she meant to. Cassandra noticed for a second. Their eyes met and Ivy panicked, immediately looking down at the champagne in her hand, like it held the secrets to gravity. Footsteps approached, heels, purposeful, and then a voice, soft but firm, edged with curiosity and something warmer. "Are you planning to sit here all night? Or do you want to cause a little trouble with me?" Ivy looked up, startled. Cassandra was right there, close enough to smell jasmine and vanilla, close enough to see the dusting of freckles on her cheekbones, and the confidence in the tilt of her head. Ivy blinked. "Excuse me?" I asked. Cassandra repeated, grinning. "If you be my date for the night. I'm bored to death and you look like you could use an escape route." Ivy stared. "You don't even know me." "Not yet," Cassandra said, then leaned in slightly. "But I noticed you weren't pretending. Everyone else here is pretending to be someone they're not. You're just watching. That's interesting." Ivy's throat tightened. She didn't do spontaneous. She didn't do flirty strangers. She didn't do weddings. But something in Cassandra's gaze was disarming in the most dangerous way. "I don't dance," Ivy said quietly. "Who said anything about dancing?" Cassandra smirked. "Let's just talk. You and me somewhere less suffocating." A pause. Ivy hesitated. She hadn't realized how much she needed someone to see her. Not the chair, not the billions, not the tragic contrast of beauty and brokenness everyone seemed to layer onto her like dust. Just her. "All right," she said. "But if this turns into some pity party, then you can roll over my foot," Cassandra replied easily, extending her hand. "Deal?" Ivy stared at the hand for a beat longer than she should have, then took it. The warmth of Cassandra's fingers shocked her. Real firm. No hesitation. No awkwardness. Just skin on skin, a promise. They maneuvered through the crowd with Cassandra leading the way. carving space like she belonged there, like Ivy belonged with her. As they reached the garden terrace, Ivy realized her heart was pounding. Not from nerves, from anticipation, from something dangerously close to hope. Cassandra leaned against the railing and looked at her. Really looked like she was waiting for Ivy to speak first. But Ivy didn't know how to start. "You do this often?" she asked finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "Pick strangers in wheelchairs as your plus one." Cassandra laughed. And it wasn't the kind of laugh people used when they were uncomfortable. It was real, unfiltered. "No. But tonight felt like a good night to break the rules. And you didn't look like a stranger. You looked like someone worth knowing." Ivy swallowed. The night air was cool, but her skin was suddenly hot. Cassandra turned to face her fully. "Tell me something real." Ivy Valdez. Not the press release version, the version. And Ivy, against every wall she'd built, against every instinct to keep herself guarded, heard herself say, "I hate weddings. But right now I'm glad I came to this one." Cassandra's smile softened. "Me, too." And in that moment, the noise of the world faded. Just two women, a terrace, a promise hanging unspoken between them. Ivy followed Cassandra down a winding stone path that led away from the lights of the reception and into the quieter, darker corners of the estate. The wedding was being held at some overpriced countryside vineyard that screamed rustic sophistication, all manicured hedges and ivy-covered terraces. Ivy had barely noticed it when she arrived. She hadn't planned on staying long enough to care, but now, trailing just behind Cassandra and the soft rustle of her red dress in the breeze, the world suddenly felt full of texture and possibility. Cassandra didn't talk much as they walked. She just threw the occasional glance over her shoulder to make sure Ivy was keeping up, and Ivy appreciated that. No fake concern, no over-explaining, just two women in motion, stepping outside of a world that never quite knew what to do with either of them. They reached a secluded gazebo at the edge of the vineyard, framed by fairy lights and the deep hum of nighttime insects. A few lanterns flickered along the wooden beams, casting soft shadows on the gravel path. Cassandra turned and faced her, her expression unreadable for the first time. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like to just disappear for a while?" she asked. Ivy cocked her head intrigued. "You mean like fake your death and start over kind of disappear? Or just turn off your phone for a weekend?" "Somewhere in between," Cassandra said, stepping into the gazebo and perching herself on the low wooden railing. "I mean disappearing from expectations, from assumptions, from the way people look at you like they've already decided what kind of story you're allowed to have." Ivy wheeled closer, her hands tightening slightly on the rims. That question hit her like a quiet storm. "All the time," she murmured. "I built an empire just to prove I could. And yet every room I enter, people still see the chair before they see me, if they even bothered to look past it." Cassandra didn't interrupt. She just watched her calm and open like Ivy's words mattered. Like she mattered. "What if?" Cassandra said slowly. "You didn't have to prove anything tonight. What if you could just be?" Ivy met her gaze, something tender and dangerous unfurling behind her ribs. "I don't know who I am when I'm not proving something," she admitted. Cassandra smiled soft and slow. "Then let's find out together." The way she said it, like an invitation, not a challenge, made Ivy's stomach twist with something that felt a lot like longing. A silence stretched between them, but it wasn't empty. It pulsed. It breathed. "So, what about you?" Ivy asked, needing to shift the spotlight. "You glide through that reception like you own the damn place. But then you run out here like you're hiding. What are you escaping from?" Cassandra leaned back, staring up at the stars. "A family that talks over each other and never listens. A million expectations about who I should be dating, what kind of job I should have, how I should be more like my perfect brother. And tonight a wedding that feels more like a performance than a celebration." She paused, then added, "Also, my ex is here with her new fiancé. So, there's that." Ivy blinked. "Ouch. Yeah, Cassandra said, letting out a breath. So trust me, when I saw you sitting there, elegant, alone, looking like you were quietly judging everyone, I thought that woman gets it. Ivy laughed before she could stop herself. A real laugh. It startled her. Cassandra's eyes lit up. There it is, she said. That's what I was looking for. What? Ivy asked, her smile still lingering. Your laugh. It's kind of addictive. Ivy shook her head, trying to reel in the flutter in her chest. You're dangerous. Only in the best ways, Cassandra replied, her voice low now, velvet smooth. The distance between them suddenly felt charged. Ivy didn't move closer. She didn't have to. Cassandra took a step forward, then another until she was right in front of chair, looking down at her with a gaze that made Ivy forget how to breathe. May I? Cassandra asked, her fingers hovering near Ivy's hand, but not touching. Ivy hesitated. The last woman who touched her like that had also looked at her with pity wrapped in seduction. She'd never trusted a touch since, but Cassandra's eyes held no pity, only curiosity and want. So Ivy nodded. Cassandra's fingers found hers, warm, steady, and Ivy felt it like a current shooting straight up her spine. You're shaking, Cassandra said softly. I'm not used to people touching me without expectations, Ivy replied. Or apologies. Cassandra tightened her grip just enough to say you're safe. Then let me be the first to say I'm not here out of pity or curiosity. I'm here because you're the most fascinating woman I've met in a long, long time. And I didn't want to leave tonight without knowing your voice, your mind, your laugh. Ivy swallowed hard. You barely know me yet, Cassandra whispered. Ivy felt something snap inside her, not break open. She wanted to say something, anything, but her throat was too full. Cassandra, sensing the shift, gently let go and stepped back, giving her space. Come on, she said, voice light again. There's an orchard behind the vineyard. You game? I thought you wanted to escape the wedding, not get lost in the wilderness, teased. Maybe I want to get lost with you, Cassandra replied, throwing her a wink. And just like that, Ivy wheeled forward, her pulse thawing, her body remembering what hope felt like. For the first time in years, she wasn't trying to leave early. She was chasing the night. The orchard was quieter than the garden. A dozen rows of apple trees stretched into the shadows, their branches heavy with late summer fruit. The air thick with the scent of sugar and earth. Moonlight dripped down through the leaves like spilled milk, softening every edge, washing the world in silver. Cassandra slowed her steps as she reached the first row, turning to watch Ivy navigate the uneven path. It was gravel at first, then transitioned into dirt, uneven, slightly sloped, not exactly built for wheels. But Ivy was used to places that weren't built for her. She handled her chair with the kind of silent precision that came from years of having no other choice. Still, Cassandra's gaze lingered, not with worry, but with quiet admiration. You okay? She asked, her voice low, no trace of condescension. I've done boardroom presentations while in post-surgical pain and negotiating with oil executives, Ivy muttered, pushing over a root. I think I can handle an apple tree or two. Cassandra smiled, falling into step beside her. You always like to lead with your resume. Old habits. Said sometimes it's easier to talk about the empire than the body. Cassandra didn't flinch. But I'm not asking about the empire. I'm asking about you. Ivy turned her face away, pretending to study the trees. Why? Because I like the way you think, the way you speak, the way you don't try to shrink yourself to make people comfortable. Ivy laughed, dry and bitter. You're assuming I have the option to shrink. Cassandra stopped walking. No, I'm saying you refuse to make yourself small for a world that doesn't know how to hold you. The words settled on skin like warm hands. She looked at Cassandra, then really looked at the firelight of her eyes, the storm beneath her calm. You're too poetic for someone who escaped a wedding. Blame the orchard, Cassandra said, stepping closer. It's the moonlight. It makes everything feel like a secret. Ivy's chair came to a gentle stop beside one of the wider trees, its roots carving a curve into the ground. She braced her hand on the trunk for balance and adjusted her posture. The effort was small but deliberate, and Cassandra noticed, not the movement, but the ownership of it. I don't know what this is, Ivy said, her voice softer now, but it's fast, and I don't do fast. We don't have to name it, Cassandra replied. We just have to feel it. There was a long beat. Then Ivy whispered, I feel it. Cassandra stepped in. Just one step, enough to close the space between them. She didn't lean, didn't grab, just stood close enough for Ivy to feel the heat of her. May I? Cassandra asked again, always asking, always waiting. Ivy's pulse raced. Yes. Cassandra reached out, tucking a loose strand of hair behind Ivy's ear. Her fingers were feather-light, reverent. Ivy exhaled slowly. Why me? She asked. Tonight, of all people, of all places. Why walk toward the woman in the corner? Cassandra's hand dropped, but her eyes never wavered. Because I saw you, and I didn't want to look away. Their faces were inches apart, the air between them charged and trembling. Cassandra leaned in. Ivy tilted her chin. Their lips were about to meet, and then the unmistakable crunch of footsteps on dry leaves. They both froze. Cassandra turned first, her body instinctively shifting to block Ivy's from view. A figure emerged from the darkness between the trees. A tall woman in a tight emerald dress clutching a half-empty wine glass like a weapon. Her hair was perfect. Her smile wasn't well, the woman said, her voice slick with alcohol and something sour. If it isn't the elusive Cassandra Solano. And look at that. She found herself a pet project. Ivy's stomach dropped. Cassandra's expression turned to stone. Not now, Noelle. Oh, I think now is the perfect time. Noelle replied, taking another step closer. I mean, I've been watching you slink round this party all night, and I just knew you'd end up somewhere dramatic. But this, she looked up and down. Really, Kat? Ivy's hands tightened on her wheels. Cassandra's jaw clenched. You're drunk and you're desperate. Noelle snapped. God, it's pathetic. You couldn't stand seeing me with Evan. So now you're out here making eyes at. Stop, Cassandra said sharply. Noelle blinked. What? Leave now. Why? Is she going to run me over? Noelle smirked. Ivy's breath caught. But before she could say a word, Cassandra stepped fully in front of her, voice low and lethal. You don't get to talk to her like that. You don't get to look at her like that. Not after what you did to me. Not after the way you made me feel small for years just so you could feel big. Noelle faltered. The wine sloshed in her glass. Wow. So, she's your savior now. Your little trauma cleanser. No, Cassandra said. She's the first person who made me want to be seen again. And you're not ruining that. Silence fell. Thick cold. Then Noelle laughed, bitter and brittle. You always were dramatic, she said, then tossed the rest of her wine into the grass and turned away. Good luck, Kat. You're going to need it. When she disappeared into the dark, Cassandra let out a slow breath and turned back to Ivy. I'm sorry. Ivy was quiet. Her eyes were unreadable. Is she your ex? Was Cassandra said a long time ago? It was toxic. I was a mess. Ivy nodded slowly. She still knows how to hit your wounds. She's good at that, Cassandra admitted. But you made me feel like I could breathe again. And I didn't want a night to end like that. Ivy studied her. The tension, the fear, the honesty. And slowly she reached out, taking Cassandra's hand. It hasn't ended yet, she said. Cassandra smiled, shaky but real. Then let's start over. Okay, Ivy whispered. Let's start here. They re-entered the house under a canopy of strained silence and lingering adrenaline. Cassandra's hand remained loosely intertwined with as they moved back toward the reception area, which had quieted considerably. The drunken chaos of the early evening had mellowed into soft jazz and scattered conversations. with only the truly intoxicated still spinning on the dance floor. The scent of champagne and frosting hung heavy in the air. Ivy hated the way her heart was still pounding, not because of Noel's words, though they'd burned, but because of how much she cared that Cassandra had stood up for her. It had been so long since anyone had chosen her, not because they had to, not out of guilt or social obligation, but simply because they wanted to. Cassandra didn't glance around nervously as they passed through the lingering crowd. She didn't shrink or avoid eye contact. She walked beside Ivy like she belonged there, like they belonged there. And that did something to Ivy's ribs that no billionaire meeting, no empire, no victory ever had. It made her feel visible, wanted, seen. I think we need drinks, Cassandra muttered, nodding toward the bar. And maybe something stupid to distract us. Stupid? Ivy asked, arching a brow. You don't strike me as the reckless type. Cassandra grinned. You haven't seen me after wedding cake. They reached the bar and Cassandra ordered them both a glass of champagne. Ivy rarely drank more than a sip or two in public. Liquor made her skin feel unpredictable. Her body, lately, a little less cooperative. But tonight didn't feel like performance. Tonight felt private, even inside a crowd. She took the glass. So, what's your definition of stupid? She asked, tasting a small sip. Cassandra's gaze cut to the far side of the hall, where a knot of guests clustered around a low table scattered with cards and half-empty glasses. They're playing truth or dare. Ivy narrowed her eyes. Are we back in high school? Emotionally, probably. Cassandra smiled. Come on, we won't linger. We'll blend in, act vaguely sociable, then slip out once everyone's tipsy enough not to care. You're terrible at pretending to be boring, Ivy said, but she went with her anyway. As they neared the circle, someone shouted, "New blood," and space opened for them. A handful of guests, mostly mid-20s, some cousins, friends of the groom, and a couple of overamped bridesmaids whooped as Cassandra and Ivy settled in. No one mentioned the chair. No one stared. Whether it was distraction or decency, Ivy couldn't tell, and she was grateful for the brief invisibility. Cassandra kept the introductions simple names, nothing extra, and the game folded them in as if they'd been sitting there all along. This is Ivy. She's smarter than all of us. Be warned. Ivy rolled her eyes but smiled. They sat Cassandra cross-legged on a cushion. Ivy just beside her, her hands on her wheels, back straight. The game began innocently enough. Silly dares, embarrassing truths. Who kissed who? Who snuck off during the rehearsal dinner? Who secretly hated the best man? Ivy kept quiet, content to observe. Cassandra was magnetic, laughing easily, her eyes flicking to now and then with a quiet heat that made Ivy's spine tingle. Eventually, someone turned to Ivy, a woman in pink heels and a high ponytail. Your turn, she said, grinning. Truth or dare? Ivy hesitated. Truth. Boo, someone teased. To safe. Let her live, Cassandra said, smirking. The woman in pink leaned forward. Okay, Ivy. What's the most reckless thing you've ever done for love? The question hung in the air like smoke. Ivy's fingers curled slightly against her chair. Her jaw tightened. Cassandra looked at her gently, sensing the shift. I built someone a company, Ivy said quietly. From the ground up. Funded every dollar. Gave her power she didn't earn. Trusted her with everything. Wow, someone said. What happened? Ivy looked down at her hands. She left, took half of it, and told the press I was too broken to run anything without her. The silence that followed was heavy. Cassandra's eyes darkened. You don't have to. I want to, Ivy said, looking at her. Because if you're going to keep asking to see me, then I need to stop hiding the parts that still sting. Cassandra nodded once, like a promise. Then I'm going next, she said, her tone sharper now. Truth. Someone leaned in. Cassandra, have you ever fallen in love with someone you weren't supposed to? Cassandra didn't look away from Ivy. Yes. Who? the bridesmaid asked eagerly. I think I'm looking at her, Cassandra said. Gasps, laughter, teasing noises erupted around them. But Ivy couldn't hear any of it. Her pulse roared in her ears. Her heart stuttered in her chest. Cassandra's gaze was unwavering, steady, and full of something wild and real. Ivy exhaled. Her voice, when it came, was hoarse arrow. I need air. Let's go, Cassandra said immediately, rising to her feet and waiting without rushing. Ivy turned her chair and headed toward the veranda, Cassandra at her side. Once they were alone, Ivy stopped. Her hands were shaking. That was too much, Cassandra asked. Not from you, Ivy said. Just I wasn't ready. Cassandra stepped closer. I didn't say it to corner you or pressure you. I meant it. I see you, Ivy, and it scares the hell out of me, too. Ivy met her eyes. You see me, but do you know what that means? To really be with someone like me, someone brilliant, gorgeous, unapologetic. Yeah, I think I'm starting to. You think, Ivy said, but you don't know what it's like to need help on bad days, to be stared at, to be dismissed. You don't know what it's like to carry this body through a world that pretends it's not built for you. Then tell me, Cassandra said softly. Let me learn. Ivy swallowed hard. Her defenses were shaking, crumbling. She didn't want this, but Cassandra made it so easy, so dangerous, so alive. And then Cassandra leaned in slow, deliberate, asking without words. This time Ivy didn't move. Her breath caught. Cassandra's lips brushed hers. Gentle waiting. Ivy kissed her back. Finally, and it wasn't tentative. It wasn't safe. It was a declaration, a claiming when they broke apart. Both were breathless. Ivy rested her forehead against Cassandra's. I'm terrified, she whispered. Cassandra smiled. Me too, but I've never wanted anything more. The morning sunlight sliced through the thin hotel curtains, casting sharp lines across Ivy's face as she blinked awake. For a moment, she forgot where she was. The faint scent of roses and wood polish clung to the linens. A distant echo of laughter drifted in through the window. Brunch maybe, or some leftover celebration from the wedding still trickling into the daylight. Then the memories came crashing back. The orchard, the game, the kiss. Cassandra. Ivy lay still, letting it all wash over her. Her lips still tingled where Cassandra had kissed her. Her chest was still tight from the weight of things she hadn't let herself feel in years. She ran a hand down her arm, grounding herself. The room was too quiet, too sharp. Reality always had a way of scraping at the edges of something beautiful. Ivy sat up slowly, maneuvering herself from the bed to her chair with practiced efficiency. Her body aching in familiar, quiet ways. She didn't complain. Her body was what it was, a machine she long ago learned to operate with precision. Even when it felt fragile inside, she wheeled herself to the vanity, staring into her reflection. Her dark eyes were heavy, rimmed with a kind of vulnerability she usually kept under lock and key. She wasn't used to softness. She was used to being wanted for power, for prestige, for proximity to influence. Not for the way she laughed, or the sharpness of her mind, or the shape of her mouth when she was trying not to smile. She wasn't used to someone like Cassandra. Her phone buzzed. A message. Cassandra Solano, still thinking about that kiss. Can I bribe you with coffee to talk about it? Meet me in the Garden Cafe in 30. Ivy stared at the screen. Her thumbs hovered. She wasn't ready. She was too ready. She typed, then deleted, then typed again. Ivy, you can try. 35 minutes later, Ivy arrived at the Garden Cafe nestled behind the main hotel building. It was quieter than expected. Only a few guests scattered between the rose bushes and wrought iron tables, sipping lattes in oversized sunglasses, pretending they weren't hungover. Cassandra was already there, sitting beneath a tree, sunlight catching in her hair. She was wearing a soft white blouse tucked into dark jeans, casual but polished. She looked up as Ivy approached. and her smile bloomed like it had been waiting all morning just for this. "You came," Cassandra said, standing to pull a chair aside so Ivy could roll into place. "You bribed me," Ivy replied, her voice calm, but her pulse pounding. "You didn't even ask what kind of coffee I like. I figured you were a triple shot. No foam, light on the sweetness kind of woman." Ivy blinked. "You'd be correct." Cassandra slid the cup toward her. "I'm an excellent guesser." Ivy took a sip. The silence that followed was not awkward. It was full expectant. "So," Cassandra said, lacing her fingers on the table, "about last night." Ivy raised an eyebrow. "Which part? The ex, the confessions, the kiss, all of it?" Cassandra said, "I didn't plan any of that, but I don't regret a second." Ivy stared down at her cup. It felt big, too big. "It was big," Cassandra admitted. "But sometimes the right things doesn't mean we have to rush into anything. I just want to know where your head is." Ivy hesitated. "I don't date. Not really. I don't trust easily. I've been used. I've been paraded. I've been made to feel like someone's charity project more times than I can count. And I've spent years building walls so no one could ever do it again." Cassandra didn't flinch. "And last night you broke something open," Ivy said, "and I don't know if I'm ready for what's going to spill out." Cassandra reached across the table, palm up, waiting, always waiting. Ivy looked at her hand for a long time before placing her own there, then let it spill. Cassandra said, "I'm not here to fix you. I just want to know you." Ivy's throat tightened. "You say all the right things. I say what I mean," Cassandra corrected. "That's new," Ivy whispered. "It shouldn't be," Cassandra replied. They sat there, hands clasped, the sounds of birds and distant brunch clatter filling the space around them. "Tell me something true," Ivy said suddenly. "Something I don't know about you yet." Cassandra looked away, a small frown tugging at her lips. "Okay," she said softly. "Truth. I wasn't just avoiding my ex last night. I was avoiding the pressure. The constant questions about why I'm not settled, why I don't have a real career, why I keep ruining good things." Ivy tilted her head. "And do you sometimes?" Cassandra admitted. "I get scared when something feels real. I sabotage it. Run before anyone can leave me first." Ivy was quiet. "So we're both broken then?" "No," Cassandra said firmly. "We're both human, and maybe we're exactly the kind of people who need each other." Ivy exhaled, the weight on her chest slightly lighter now. "This doesn't feel like the kind of thing you can just walk away from in the morning." Cassandra squeezed her hand. "I don't plan to." And for the first time in a long time, Ivy let herself believe it. Not completely, not forever, but enough. Enough to stay, enough to hope. The city was already humming by the time they stepped out into it. It wasn't far from the vineyard, just 20 minutes inland, tucked between two sleepy hills and a handful of overpriced bakeries that survived on wedding guests and rich retirees. Cassandra had insisted on the detour. "Just an hour," she'd said, her eyes bright. "There's somewhere I want to show you." Ivy said yes, not because she needed more coffee, not even because she was curious, but because Cassandra had looked at her with that quiet urgency again. That need to be understood, to share something real, and Ivy couldn't look away from that. They walked in silence for a few minutes. Cassandra slowed her pace to match Ivy's rhythm, never rushing ahead, never falling behind. It wasn't pity, it was instinct, and noticed every little thing. The way Cassandra adjusted her body to make space. The way she didn't comment when Ivy chose the curb ramp instead of the stairs. The way she let the world shape itself around them without making it a performance. "Where are we going?" Ivy finally asked. Cassandra pointed ahead. There it was, a mural, a massive wall covered in color. Hundreds of names scrolled across a sunburst design. Tiny messages tucked between swirling brush strokes. At the center, two women held hands, faceless but unmistakably lovers. Their bodies half blended into the light behind them. Ivy stared. You did this years ago, Cassandra said, her voice quiet. Before the gallery jobs, before the commissions. I was crashing on a friend's couch and painting at night to keep from losing my mind. This wall saved me. It was the first time I put something out into the world, without apologizing for how much of myself it held. Ivy wheeled closer. The brushwork was raw, beautiful. Wounds turned into sunlight. You're incredible, she whispered. Cassandra smiled, but before she could respond, a voice rang out behind them. Oh my God, you're Ivy Valdez. Ivy turned. Two women, maybe late 20s, were walking past, phones already in hand. One of them looked breathless. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but you're the Ivy Valdez, right? The tech genius, the crypto queen. Ivy straightened slightly, her spine instinctively snapping into CEO mode. I am. We followed the court case. The one with your ex. You are amazing. Ruthless. We talk about it in our business class. Cassandra stepped back a little watching. Ivy nodded politely. Thank you. Can we get a picture with you? The other woman asked, already moving closer. My followers will lose it. Ivy hesitated. Her body was tired. Her guard was up. She didn't want Cassandra to see her like this on display. But she'd said yes to worse things. Sure, she said. She smiled for the photo, gave them 15 seconds of polite small talk. Then they left, giggling down the sidewalk. And when Ivy turned back, Cassandra wasn't smiling. That happened a lot, she asked. People recognizing you sometimes. Ivy's voice was guarded. Now you looked different, Cassandra said carefully. When they approached, you changed. Ivy shrugged. It's part of the job. But you hated it. Does it matter? Ivy snapped, sharper than she meant to. Cassandra blinked. It does to me. Why? Because I don't know who you are when you're like that. Cold. Removed. And I liked the Ivy who kissed me under the stars, not the one who poses for strangers and shuts down after. Ivy's jaw clenched. You wanted the truth. The truth is I've spent years being someone people could trust with millions. That doesn't leave room for softness or mess. I'm not asking you to be soft for everyone, Cassandra said, her voice rising now. Just for me, maybe I don't know how. The words came out like broken glass. Cassandra stepped closer. Then let me help you. Why do you care so much? Ivy said, her voice cracking. You barely know me. One night, a kiss, and now you're suddenly the expert on who I am. Cassandra didn't flinch, but her expression shifted. Hurt, confused, defensive. Because I saw you, she said. And I thought you saw me, too. Ivy looked away. Maybe I was wrong. Silence. A deep, terrible silence. Cassandra stepped back. You're scared. I get that. But don't punish me for something I haven't done. You don't understand what it's like to have your entire identity turned into a headline. Ivy said, to be reduced to the woman in the chair, or the lawsuit, or the scandal. You're right, Cassandra said. I don't. But I do know what it's like to be lied to be left, to be made to feel like I'm too much and never enough, all at once. I know what it's like to choose someone who doesn't choose me back. Ivy winced. Cassandra. No. Cassandra said, holding up a hand. I'm not walking away. Not yet. But I won't chase you through a wall you won't even let me knock on. Ivy stared at her. Something inside her twisted painfully. She wanted to reach out to explain, but all the old instincts kicked in. Lock it down. Look composed. Don't need. Don't want. Don't break. Cassandra took a slow breath. I'll be at the hotel. If you want to talk, you know where to find me. She turned and walked away, her shoulders tense. Ivy sat there for a long time, the mural at her back, the street moving around her like a storm. She couldn't stop. The sun burned a little too bright now. Her coffee had gone cold, and for the first time in a long time, Ivy didn't feel powerful. She felt like a woman who just watched the best thing in her life walk away. and didn't know how to bring her back. Ivy had never paced before, not in the literal sense, but as the wheels of her chair traced the smooth floor of the hotel suite for the 5th time. She realized it was the closest she'd ever come to it. The room was sterile, expensive, impersonal, white orchids in a glass vase. A minibar she hadn't touched, her phone buzzing unanswered beside an untouched plate of breakfast. None of it grounded her. None of it gave her the words she needed. Cassandra's voice still echoed inside her head. Don't punish me for something I haven't done. Ivy closed her eyes. She hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, and for once not out of work. But because she'd said things she didn't mean to someone who didn't deserve them. Cassandra had shown up for her in the orchard, in the cafe, again and again, and had chosen fear over truth. She always did. But last night, watching Cassandra walk away, shoulders tight with the weight of disappointment, something had broken open in her chest. Something stubborn, something sharp. She didn't want to lose her, not because of reflexes, not because of pride. With a shaking breath, Ivy grabbed her phone and checked the message she typed and retyped at least 5 times. Ivy, I said the wrong things. Can we talk? Sent. Seen. No reply. She didn't wait. She rolled out of the room into the elevator and down the corridor until she was outside Cassandra's suite. Her hand hovered over the door. She hesitated, heart thudding, then knocked. Nothing. Her stomach twisted. She knocked again. Finally, footsteps. The door cracked open, and Cassandra stood there barefoot, her eyes tired, her hair pulled up in a messy knot. She wore an oversized shirt Ivy didn't recognize, probably borrowed. She looked beautiful in a way that made Ivy ache. I didn't think you'd come, Cassandra said. I didn't think I'd be brave enough, Ivy admitted. But I am. Cassandra stepped back, silent permission. Ivy rolled in slowly, taking in the space, soft lighting, half-read book on the armrest, an untouched coffee on the table. I wanted to call, Ivy said, stopping in the center of the room. But I didn't know if I deserved your voice after the things I said. Cassandra didn't speak. She folded her arms and waited. Ivy took a breath. You were right. I'm scared. I've built my whole life around being untouchable, unshakable, because I thought that's how I had to survive. Every time I've let someone close, it's cost me more than they'll ever know. And I don't know how to trust that you won't be another loss. Cassandra's eyes softened, but she didn't move. Do you think I'm here just to hurt you? Ivy shook her head. No, that's the worst part. I think you're here for the right reasons. I just don't know if I know how to let that in. Cassandra walked closer, not touching, just near enough for Ivy to feel her presence. Then start with one thing, she said gently. Tell me one real thing you want from me right now. Ivy looked up and her voice cracked. I want you to stay. Cassandra's face softened. Okay. She sat on the couch and patted the space beside her. Ivy wheeled closer, parked, and turned to face her. You scare me, she said, because when you look at me, I don't feel like a symbol, or a headline, or a cautionary tale. I feel like me, and I don't remember the last time I liked who that was. Cassandra reached over and took her hand. I like her. I like her a lot. The silence was warm this time, full of the things neither had words for. Ivy's thumb brushed Cassandra's knuckles. I want to try, she said. Not just this weekend. Not just the moment. I want more. If you do, too. Cassandra smiled. I do. They sat there for a long time, close but unhurried, the room thick with peace and promise until the knock. A sharp, unexpected knock on Cassandra's door. Both women froze. Cassandra stood and opened it. Ivy couldn't see who it was, but she heard the voice. Cold, familiar, calculated. Well, that didn't take long. Ivy's blood turned to ice. Cassandra stepped aside, confused, revealing the visitor. A woman in a tailored navy blazer, hair slipped back, lips curled in a cruel smile. Veronica, Ivy breathed. The woman stepped inside without asking. Hello, darling. I saw your name trending again. Figured you'd be hiding somewhere romantic. Imagine my surprise to find this." Cassandra blinked. "I'm sorry, who?" Ivy's voice was low. "She's my ex." Veronitza smirked. Ex-fiancé technically, but who's counting? Cassandra stepped protectively between them. "What do you want?" Veronitza's eyes sparkled with cruelty. "I want to talk to Ivy about some pending business. Some documents she forgot to finalize before disappearing." Ivy's jaw clenched. "This isn't the time." "It is if you want to keep your name out of the press again," Veronica purred. "You know how fast things spread. A photo here, a comment there. Maybe I tell the world about the NDA breach. The company you built on stolen code, or the little offshore account you once asked me to get out." Cassandra snapped. Veronica turned slowly. "Excuse me." "You heard me," Cassandra said, voice shaking but firm. "Whatever this is, you don't get to come into this room and threaten her. Not now. Not ever." Veronica raised an eyebrow. "How sweet. Protecting the poor broken billionaire." She looked Ivy up and down with disgust. "Still letting everyone believe you're the victim." Ivy didn't move, didn't blink, but her voice was still. "You're going to leave or I'm going to call security. And the next time you come near me with a threat, I'll remind you who taught who how to play dirty." Veronitza's smile faltered just for a second. Then she turned, hair whipping behind her. "This isn't over," she hissed, slamming the door behind her. Silence fell. Ivy's breathing was shaky. Cassandra crossed the room, knelt beside her, hands hovering but not touching. "Are you okay?" "No," said, "but I'm glad you were here." Cassandra reached up and cubed her cheek. "You don't have to go through any of that alone anymore." Ivy leaned into the touch. "Just a little. I'm not sure how to let you fight for me." "You don't have to let me," Cassandra said. "I already am." Ivy didn't sleep again. Not even after Cassandra curled up beside her on the couch, arm draped protectively across her lap. Both of them cloaked in a silence too thick to cut. Veronitza's visit had poisoned the air, not just with her threats, but with what she represented. The life Ivy had built to survive now dragging itself back to devour everything she'd started to hope for. Around 4 a.m. Ivy wheeled herself to the balcony and sat in the cool pre-dawn breeze. Below, the vineyard slept under silver fog, vines curling like secrets around the hills. Her mind was burning. She'd worked too hard to lose everything again. But more than that, she wouldn't let Cassandra be dragged through her damage. And yet, every instinct she had whispered to push her away. Protect her, spare her. Leave before she leaves you. But Cassandra wasn't leaving. Not yet. When morning finally came, Ivy made a decision. She was going to confront it. All of it. She just didn't realize that doing so would tear a hole in everything she and Cassandra had started to build. Cassandra sipped her coffee slowly, perched on the hotel bed, still wrapped in a robe and watching Ivy dress in silence. The tension was different now, more cautious than cold, like they were both holding their breath. "You're really going to meet her?" Cassandra finally asked. Ivy nodded, slipping her blazer over her shoulders. "Veronica doesn't bluff. If I don't contain her, she'll escalate." "She threatened you," Cassandra said, frowning. "She threatened us. And now you're just going to walk into a private meeting with her." "I'm not walking," Ivy said flatly, then softened. "And I won't be alone. I called my attorney. He's meeting me in the city." Cassandra's jaw tensed. "You still haven't told me what she has on you." Ivy adjusted her watch. "Because if I say it out loud, I make it real." "It is real," Cassandra said, "and I'm already in it. So stop pretending this is about protecting me and tell me the truth." Ivy sighed long. "Heavy. Veronica helped me start one of my earliest companies. I gave her access to everything: emails, finances, code, even offshore assets." "Offshore? It wasn't illegal," Ivy said quickly. "Just aggressive, risky, and Veronica knew how to spin it. So she's threatening to go public. She's threatening to claim she was coerced. Ivy said that I manipulated her, that the power dynamic made consent impossible, that I left her with nothing after the breakup, which isn't true. But if she controls the narrative, it won't matter. Cassandra's heart dropped. Do you think she'd really do that? I know she would. Ivy's voice was ice. She's already planted rumors, articles, anonymous sources. I can't afford another scandal. Not now. Cassandra stood. Then let me come with you. No, why not? Ivy turned to face her. Because if she sees you, she'll go after you next. She'll twist everything. She'll call you my rebound, my distraction, my mistake. I don't care what she says, but I do. Ivy said, voice rising. I can't drag you into this mess. You don't know how brutal it gets when it starts unraveling. Cassandra stepped closer. I don't want protection. I want partnership and I want to keep you. Ivy snapped. But I won't do it by feeding you to someone like her. Cassandra flinched. So what are you cutting me out now? Is this the part where you pull away to save me because you're scared of being chosen? Ivy's silence said enough. Cassandra took a step back. Wow, you really don't get it. I didn't fall for Ivy Valdez, the billionaire. I fell for the woman under all that armor. But if you're going to lock me out every time, it gets hard. It's not about locking you out. Ivy shouted. It's about surviving. Cassandra stared at her, eyes glistening. Then I guess I'm just one more thing you survive. Cassandra turned, grabbed her keys, and left. The meeting with Veronica was as vile as Ivy expected. Her ex showed up at the law firm wearing power heels and poison lipstick, tossing out smug smiles and legal jargon like confetti. Ivy said almost nothing. Her lawyer handled the rest, pushing for clarification, recording every threat, narrowing the options. It didn't take long for Veronica to slip, to admit she had no documents, just screenshots. Implications, bitterness dressed in strategy. The lawyer promised to file an injunction and a defamation warning. Veronica's smile cracked just for a second. Then she left, venom still clinging to her heels. But Ivy didn't feel like she'd won. She felt empty because she'd built this fortress of logic of contracts and counterattacks. But it didn't protect her from the thing that mattered. Cassandra was gone. It was late when Ivy returned to the hotel. Her body HAD. Her spine screamed. Her arms trembled from hours of strain. But none of it compared to the silence waiting in the room. Cassandra hadn't come back. Her things were gone. Just the book on the armrest remained. Ivy rolled toward it, staring down at the open page. A sticky note sat inside. You don't have to protect me from your past. But if you keep choosing fear over us, eventually I won't be there to choose at all. See? Ivy's heart broke so quietly it didn't even make a sound. She closed the book, let it rest against her chest, and whispered into the dark. Please don't give up on me. Ivy Valdez wasn't used to silence. Her world was one of noise. Contracts, negotiations, click-clack heels in glass offices. Headlines blaring her name in bold font. Noise was armor. Noise was power. But now, alone in that empty hotel suite, all she had was silence. And it was deafening. Cassandra was gone. She left with a warning, not a door slam. With care, not rage. That was worse. Ivy had faced boardrooms full of men who wanted to see her fail. And she never blinked. But this quiet ache behind her ribs. This emptiness in a room that once held laughter and something dangerously close to peace. It was breaking her in ways no scandal ever could. She stared at the sticky note again. If you keep choosing fear over us, eventually I won't be there to choose at all. She ran a hand through her hair, the exhaustion hitting in full. Cassandra had asked for partnership. She'd asked for honesty, and Ivy had given her distance and control. She thought she was protecting her, but she wasn't. She was protecting herself. And now she was alone again. Unless she did something she'd never done before. Unless she stopped treating love like a negotiation. Ivy grabbed her phone and called her assistant. I need the contact from Grace Lynn at Channel 8. Ivy, it's Sunday. She's now and find out if her Sunday segment is still live at 6 p.m. There was a pause. Then I'll make it happen. She hung up and closed her eyes. This was reckless. This was public. This was everything she hated. But it was the only way to speak loud enough for Cassandra to hear her wherever she was. Cassandra sat alone in her tiny rental car parked just outside the city. Her suitcase was in the trunk. Her phone hadn't buzzed once. She told herself she'd give Ivy space. That walking away had been the right thing. But God, it hurt. She had let herself hope. She had let herself feel. And now she was back to the familiar echo of abandonment. The difference was this time she had fallen for someone who had everything, and still didn't know how to let herself be loved. Cassandra sniffed and rubbed her eyes, flipping through stations on the radio just to distract herself. Classical jazz, then static, and then tonight's special segment features an unexpected face. Billionaire Ivy Valdez, known for her tech empire and fierce privacy, has agreed to a rare live appearance. Let's tune in. Cassandra froze. Her fingers hovered over the dial. Her heart stopped. Then she turned it up. The studio lights were blinding. The anchor smiled politely, eyes hungry for a headline. Ivy sat across from her in a navy suit, hair pulled back tight. But something in her face was different. Open raw. Miss Valdez, the anchor began. People are wondering why you suddenly agreed to appear on air. Is there something you'd like to address? Ivy nodded. Yes, there's a rumor about to break about my past about a former partner who's threatening to manipulate the truth for her own gain. Is that rumor true? The truth, Ivy said slowly, is that I made mistakes. I trusted someone I shouldn't have. I gave power to the wrong hands. But I did not manipulate. I did not coerce. And I have nothing to hide anymore. The anchor blinked. That's a bold statement. Ivy turned to the camera. What I do regret is the damage I've caused by staying silent. Not just professionally, but personally. She paused, breathed. Then there's someone I met recently, someone who saw through all of this. All the headlines and walls and fear. She saw me, and I pushed her away because I was afraid that if she really knew me, she'd run. Her voice cracked. But she didn't run. I did, and I'm done running. Cassandra's breath caught as the radio played on. So, if you're watching this, Ivy said, her voice low but sure, I want you to know that I choose you. Not just when it's easy, especially when it's not. I choose your honesty, your chaos, your strength. I choose every part of you that makes me feel like myself again. A beat. Come back to me, Cassandra. The anchor blinked, stunned. Ivy looked directly into the camera. That's all. And then she stood, walked off set. No press release, no cleanup, just truth. Cassandra didn't even realize she was crying until the windshield blurred. She threw the car into drive and took off. Adrenaline and something else. Hope racing in her blood. She didn't call first. She didn't text. She just drove. 40 minutes later, she was standing in front of Ivy's suite door, heartbeat loud in her throat. She raised her fist to knock. The door opened before she could. Ivy stood there breathless, barefoot, like she'd been waiting. Cassandra stared at her. You really said all that on national television. I did. You know how insane that is, right? Insane is letting you walk away thinking I didn't want you. Cassandra shook her head, half laughing, half crying. I'm still mad at you. I deserve that. You hurt me. I know you can't fix this with a speech. I'm not trying to fix it, Ivy said, voice breaking. I'm trying to start over with the truth. Cassandra's face softened, but her guard was still up. What happens the next time you get scared? I tell you and I let you stay even when every part of me wants to run. Silence fell, and then Cassandra stepped forward slowly measured. I came back, she whispered. I wasn't sure I would. Ivy reached for her hand. But you did. Don't make me regret it. Never again. Cassandra let herself fall into Ivy's arms. Awkward and tight and real. Ivy's chair didn't matter. Her past didn't matter. Only this mattered. only now. Their mouths found each other again, and this time it wasn't cautious. It carried everything they'd swallowed back, every promise and apology, every spark, every scar, every second chance folded into one breathless kiss. Somewhere between one heartbeat and the hush that followed, Cassandra whispered, "Don't let me go." And Ivy answered, "Not in this life." Ivy told no one where they were headed. Not her assistant, not her legal team, not the two journalists still parked in her inbox pleading for exclusive follow-ups. After the interview, for the first time in years, she shut it all down: her phone, her calendar, her defenses. The escape had been her idea. That morning, hours after they finally drifted to sleep, tangled in warmth and tension and apology, she looked at Cassandra and simply said, "Let's go somewhere. Just us." Cassandra didn't ask for details. She packed a bag. They drove north toward the cliffs, toward quiet. Ivy took the wheel on logistics, mapping every stop into the car's GPS. She'd been carrying this trip in the back of her mind for years. A remote cabin on the coast, once reserved for investor retreats, before she abandoned the whole corporate bonding charade. Isolated, soundproofed, ringed with trees and salt air. No press, no demands, no Veronica, just space and Cassandra. The road curled through fog-covered hills as they climbed, the ocean flashing in and out through the pines. Cassandra rolled the windows down halfway, letting in the cold breeze, her hand reaching for Ivy's on the console without a word. Ivy glanced sideways, catching the wind in Cassandra's hair. Her face relaxed in a way she hadn't seen since that first night at the wedding. "You're really not going to tell me where we're going?" Cassandra asked eventually. "I'm kidnapping you," Ivy said. "It's a very glamorous hostage situation with leather seats and homemade playlists. I have standards and snacks. Obviously, then I surrender." Cassandra leaned over and kissed her cheek. It was so easy in that moment, so light. But Ivy knew what was waiting under the surface. She had spent too long building herself out of secrets. And even with Cassandra beside her, even with her choosing to stay, there was still one truth she hadn't told her. Not because she didn't trust her, but because the words had become sharp over time, fragile, dangerous. She told herself she'd find the right moment. When the cabin came into view, nestled between pines and fog like a secret, Cassandra whistled low. "Okay, now I'm impressed. Takes a fortress to disarm a general," said. "And you're a general of self-preservation?" "Absolutely." Inside, the cabin was warm wood and glass with a fireplace already prepped and windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. Cassandra dropped her bag and turned in place, taking it all in. "Is this where you hide when the world gets too loud?" "I never hid here," Ivy said. "I worked here, strategized, built, and now I want to learn how to be quiet in it." Cassandra walked over to her and rested a hand on the back of Ivy's neck, thumb brushing the base of her hair. "Then, let's make it quiet together." For the next 2 days, they did. They cooked together, danced barefoot in the kitchen to vintage playlists, read chapters of the same book out loud under the covers, kissed slowly in front of the fire with no clock ticking behind them. Ivy showed Cassandra how to build a fire. Cassandra taught Ivy how to play the ukulele badly. Ivy fell asleep with her head against Cassandra's thigh one afternoon and woke up to fingers in her hair and the soft hum of a lullaby she didn't recognize. It should have been perfect, but Ivy could feel the secret growing heavier inside her. She knew she had to tell Cassandra that she couldn't keep hiding the one thing that still sat between them. And just when she was about to speak, it was Cassandra who broke the spell. They were sitting on the back deck in the late afternoon sun, wrapped in a shared blanket, sipping from mismatched mugs. When Cassandra said quietly, "I need to ask you something, and I want the truth," Ivy turned to her, throat tightening. "Okay." Veronica said something that she helped you set up offshore accounts. That she was the one who planted the foundation for one of your big acquisitions. Ivy's jaw clenched. "She's twisting." "I know she is, but I looked it up." There's a shadow firm registered under your name, and it does trace back to the early years of your company. You've never mentioned it. Not once. Why? Ivy set her mug down slowly. Because it was a mistake, one I buried. Was it illegal? Cassandra's voice didn't tremble. It wasn't accusatory. It was searching. Not technically, but close enough that you're still afraid of it. Ivy stood suddenly, wheeled away from the blanket. The comfort, the softness. She faced the trees. It was a shell company. We funneled money through it to secure a merger faster. I told myself it was just strategy. Everyone did it. But when I tried to dissolve it after Veronica left, she kept part of the trail intact. She wanted leverage, insurance. And now I'm exposed. Not to the courts, but to the court of public opinion. And that's just as lethal. Cassandra stood behind her, silent for a long moment. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought if you knew who I really was, the corners I've cut, the compromises I've made, you wouldn't stay. So, you were planning on just letting me fall for the edited version of you? No, Ivy said, turning to face her. I was planning on telling you. I just didn't know how to do it without ruining everything good between us. Cassandra stepped forward. You don't ruin things by telling the truth. You ruin them by hiding it until it's too late. Ivy swallowed hard. Is it too late? Cassandra didn't answer at first. Her eyes were glassy. I don't know. I want to believe in you. I do. But I need to know that I'm not just another thing you'll keep in the dark when it gets complicated. Ivy reached for her hand. You're not. Then show me. No more filters. No more edits. Just you. Okay. Ivy nodded. Okay. But inside she knew it wasn't that simple. Love wasn't a matter of yes or no. It was trust. And trust had to be rebuilt brick by brick. And sometimes the foundation cracked when you weren't watching. As the sun set, they stood together in the silence. The weight of truth between them. It hadn't broken them. Not yet. But the fault lines were there waiting. The silence between them followed them back to the city. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't angry. It was worse. It was careful. Like they were both holding something too delicate to name. Terrified that speaking too loudly might shatter it for good. Ivy drove this time, one hand on the wheel, the other resting on her thigh, fingers twitching occasionally like they wanted to reach for Cassandra, but didn't know how. Cassandra stared out the window most of the way, her arms crossed tightly against her chest, her jaw set. She hadn't yelled, she hadn't accused, she hadn't left. But she also hadn't touched Ivy since that conversation on the deck. And that absence was louder than any slammed door. They arrived at Ivy's penthouse just before sunset. The building loomed like a fortress of glass and steel, tall and cold and painfully impersonal. It was the first time Cassandra had been there. It didn't feel like home. Not to her, maybe not even to Ivy. Inside, everything was pristine. Polished floors, minimalist decor, a view that could swallow the sky. But it was sterile, silent, designed for efficiency, not comfort. Ivy watched Cassandra step through the space like she was studying a museum exhibit. Do you live here? Cassandra asked quietly. Or just exist here? Both, said neither. I don't know anymore. Cassandra walked to the windows. You've built a world so controlled that nothing can touch you. Not grief, not joy, not even love. Ivy's voice cracked. I'm trying to unlearn that. Then you have to let it be messy. You have to let me in. Ivy rolled closer, stopping a few feet behind her. I want to. I swear to you, Cassandra. I've spent so long surviving. I don't always recognize what it means to live. Cassandra turned. Her eyes were soft but guarded. Then let me show you. But I can't keep knocking on a door that you keep half closed. Ivy didn't answer, because she couldn't promise what she wasn't sure she could deliver. But before either of them could say more, Ivy's phone buzzed. Not her personal line. The other one. The encrypted one. Cassandra noticed the shift in her face immediately. What is it? Trouble? Ivy said, swiping the screen. She didn't answer the call. She opened a secure file. Read. Went pale. Veronica just filed a formal complaint with the board of my holding company for what? Misuse of funds. Manipulation of company assets. She's claiming emotional coercion during the merger process. Is there any proof? No. But it doesn't matter. Her timing is perfect. We're in the middle of a tech acquisition that could implode if this goes public. Cassandra stepped closer. What do you need? Ivy stared at her. I need to bury this fast. Quietly. I need to call my crisis team and stop this story from leaking. And what about the truth? Cassandra asked. What about everything you said on that broadcast? That you were done hiding? This isn't hiding. This is damage control. No, Ivy, Cassandra said, voice rising. This is fear again. You don't understand what's at stake. Then make me understand. Ivy's temper snapped. My entire empire. Cassandra, everything I've built. Hundreds of employees. Billions in contracts. If this scandal breaks, I lose everything. What about me? Cassandra whispered. Do you lose me, too? Ivy froze. What if I can have both? The words slipped out before she could stop them, and Cassandra's face crumpled. Then, I'm already gone. She grabbed her bag. Ivy reached for her. Wait, no, Cassandra said, stepping back. I love you, Ivy, but I won't compete with your empire. I won't fight for space next to a woman who keeps choosing control over connection. It's not a choice. It always is. And then she was gone. The door clicked shut. Ivy sat there, the weight of her silence pressing down like stone. Her phone buzzed again. Her crisis team, her lawyer, her coup, all wanting answers, all wanting strategy, all wanting Ivy Valdez, the woman who always had a plan. But for the first time, Ivy didn't have one because all she could see was Cassandra walking out of the room, like she'd finally run out of reasons to stay. That night, Ivy didn't sleep. She didn't speak. She didn't answer a single call. She sat in the dark in a penthouse that echoed like a cave, staring at the door and praying that maybe, just maybe, it would open again. It didn't. Ivy Valdez wasn't used to silence. Not at first. What killed her was the sound. The click of Cassandra's heels fading down the hall. The chime of the elevator swallowing her. The muted slam of the lobby door echoing all the way up to the penthouse. That was the moment it happened. That was the moment Ivy realized she hadn't just lost a woman. She'd lost her compass, her center, her reason. She sat in the dark long after the last of the daylight vanished behind the skyline. Her phone buzzing every few minutes with new demands, new threats, new fires she was expected to extinguish. But she didn't move. Not when her lawyer called to say Veronic's statement had leaked. Not when the press began circling like sharks. Not when the board sent a formal inquiry. Not when hashtags with her name began trending again. This time next to words like manipulator and fraud. She didn't move because none of it mattered. None of it. Not without Cassandra. At 4:17 a.m. her assistant finally called using the emergency override. Ivy, I need you to answer me. The voice said, urgent and breathless. They're talking about pulling your chair from the board. The acquisition is suspended. Your CFO just quit. I need to know what you want to do. Ivy looked out the window at a city that once bowed to her name, and she finally spoke. Let it fall. I'm sorry. What? Let it fall. The words tasted like freedom and ash. Cancel everything. Close the deal. I'm done fighting for something that never loved me back. Ivy. She hung up. Then she turned off her phone completely. For the first time in over a decade, Ivy Valdez disconnected. And then without ceremony, without press, without anyone watching, she packed a single bag, left the penthouse, and disappeared. Cassandra didn't cry after leaving. Not at first. She drove home, windows down, throat tight, mind loud. She replayed every moment, every kiss, every promise, every wall. And then around midnight, she sat on her apartment floor with Ivy's book still in her lap. The sticky note tucked between the pages and broke. Not because Ivy didn't love her, but because she did and couldn't love herself enough to let it matter. She didn't know what hurt more, that Ivy chosen fear again, or that Cassandra had finally stopped chasing her. For the next 3 days, she turned off her own phone, turned down her brother's invitations, ignored her mother's calls. She worked, slept badly, went to the market, and stared at fruit she didn't buy. Everything felt muted, incomplete, until day 4. The morning news lit up with the headline, "Valdez steps down. Empire in free fall." Cassandra dropped her spoon. The anchor's voice was clinical, detached. After days of silence, Ivy Valdez has officially withdrawn from her position as CEO, effective immediately. Sources confirm she's taken no severance package, declined all interviews, and left behind a signed statement. Some legacies are built on silence. I'd rather start over with truth. Cassandra stood slowly, her breath caught. Her fingers trembled as she reached for her phone and opened her messages. Nothing, no missed calls, no texts, just the memory of that last night. But then she noticed something else. A letter in her mailbox. No return address. Just her name written in Ivy's unmistakable handwriting. Her heart leapt and sank at the same time. She tore it open. "Cassandra, if you're reading this, it's because I couldn't find the courage to say these words while you were still within reach. You asked me once what I wanted. I never answered because what I want has always terrified me. I want you, your stubbornness, your softness, your truth. I want to wake up to your hair in my face and your laugh in my kitchen. I want to spend the rest of my life unlearning everything that taught me love was weakness. I want to make space for you in a life I never thought I'd share. And if I have to burn my name to the ground to do that, I will. Because the empire was built to protect me. But you made me feel alive. If you're willing, I'll be at the mural. The one where the women hold hands in the sunlight. The one you said made you feel like love could be art. I'll wait until sunset. No pressure, no expectations, just truth." Cassandra didn't grab her coat. She didn't check the time. She just ran. The sun was low when she reached the wall. The city buzzed behind her, loud and unaware. But there at the base of that mural, Ivy sat. No security, no headlines, just her. Dressed in soft denim and a loose black sweater, her hair slightly windswept. Eyes locked on the painted hands at the center of the mural. She looked so human, so quiet, so completely undone. Cassandra stopped a few feet away. "You left the empire." Ivy turned. Her face lit up with relief, with fear, with everything she hadn't let herself feel before. "I had nothing left to fight for if it meant losing you." Cassandra stepped closer. "You really were going to let it all burn?" "It was already burning," Ivy whispered. Stocks dropped. The acquisition dissolved entirely. Her board released a statement that used cold words like transition, review, and ethical concerns. And yet, Ivy didn't hide. Not once. She and Cassandra stayed quiet, but not silent. They moved together through the storm, choosing privacy without secrecy. Cassandra painted like she was exorcising ghosts. Ivy wrote long-form essays, anonymous blog entries, pieces about legacy, pain, control, the myth of perfection. She stopped hiding in rooms designed to protect her. She let herself be seen. For the first time, truly seen. One afternoon, Cassandra found her asleep on the studio floor, her cane resting against the wall, open notebooks scattered like petals. She didn't wake her. She just laid down beside her and rested her hand over Ivy's chest. The heartbeat was slow, steady, human, and hers. 3 weeks passed, quiet, steady, until the letter came, hand-delivered. Heavy paper, no return address, just Ivy's name written in black ink. She opened it on the balcony, Cassandra beside her, their fingers brushing. Inside, an invitation to speak. A national conference on ethical innovation, former CEOs, tech activists, women in power. It was a panel, one titled Rebuilding After the Fall. The irony made Ivy laugh, but Cassandra read the letter twice, then looked at her. You should do it. Why? Ivy asked. I'm not the hero in this story, because the world needs to see you now, not as an icon, as a woman who fell, owned it and got back up. What if I say the wrong thing? Then you say it and we learn together. Ivy stared at the letter. Will you be there? Cassandra smiled. Front row always. Ivy accepted the invitation. They flew out 2 weeks later. The venue was a restored opera house. Glass domes and velvet curtains filled with polished people wearing unspoken expectations. Ivy wore black minimalist, no jewelry, no script. She asked Cassandra to walk with her to the stage entrance. The cane clicked gently against the marble floor. Every step was earned. You good? Cassandra asked. Ivy looked at her. Ask me again when I'm off that stage. Deal? The auditorium buzzed. Cameras pointed. The lights were too bright. Ivy stepped up to the podium and stood for a moment, her hand steadying against the edge. The crowd waited. Then she began. I used to believe power meant never having to say the words. I was wrong. A ripple moved through the room. I used to think control was the same thing as safety. That silence was strength. That being untouchable was something to be proud of. She paused. Let it land. But the truth is, silence is a prison. And the moment I started building walls to keep the world out, I also locked myself inside. She spoke for 11 minutes about ambition, about fear, about the woman who made her want to live instead of just survive. She didn't name Cassandra, but she didn't need to. It was in every word, every pause, every crack in her voice that she didn't bother to hide. When she finished, the crowd stood. Cassandra clapped the hardest. That night, after the dinner, after the press, after the whispered, she's changed comments in the hallway. Ivy and Cassandra returned to the hotel room and said nothing for a long time. They just held each other, bare feet on the rug, wine untouched on the table, then pulled a small box from her bag. Simple black velvet. Cassandra blinked. I'm not proposing, said yet. I'm not ready for that. Not yet. But I want to give you this. She opened the box. Inside was a ring, silver, understated, engraved with one word on the inside. Stay. Cassandra's breath caught. You want me to wear this? Only if you want to, Ivy said softly. It's not a symbol of ownership. It's not a promise I won't mess up. It's just a reminder that I'm not running anymore. That when I get scared, I'll reach for you instead of my silence. Cassandra took the ring, slid it on. It fit. Of course, it did. I'm still mad at you sometimes, she whispered. I know, and I'm still scared of how much I need you. Me, too. Cassandra leaned in. But I'm not going anywhere. Good, Ivy said, kissing her, because next time I am proposing. Terrifying, Cassandra whispered against her lips. But I'll think about saying yes. Take your time forever if I have to. I've got time now. They laughed, kissed again, and somewhere in the quiet between one kiss and the next, Ivy finally believed it. She hadn't lost everything. She'd finally found something that couldn't be taken away. Something hers. Something real. 1 year later, the world had moved on. But Ivy hadn't. Not from her. Not from them. She didn't need to. Cassandra was still beside her, breathing the same morning air, drinking the same bitter coffee, whispering the same sarcastic remarks when interviews got to self-congratulatory. They had rebuilt slowly, brick by honest brick. No shortcuts, no illusions. There were still scars on both of them. Ivy still froze sometimes when her phone buzzed unexpectedly. Cassandra still got quiet when Ivy closed herself off in thought for too long. But they had learned to name it, to talk, to touch instead of retreat, to hold instead of control. Cassandra's art had exploded. The gallery show sold out. Magazines wanted interviews. Collectors bid numbers Cassandra laughed at because they felt ridiculous. She painted with the kind of freedom recognized. The freedom of someone who had finally stopped apologizing for taking up space. Ivy, Meanwhile, stayed quiet by design. She consulted for nonprofits, taught a few private lectures, wrote. Her essays were taught in classrooms now, dissected by students who once would have worshipped her empire. She didn't miss it, not even a little. One evening, they sat side by side on the rooftop of their shared apartment. No penthouse, just a small place with creaky floors and a view of the river. Cassandra held a letter in her hands. She hadn't opened it yet, but Ivy already knew what was inside. Paris, Cassandra said, finally, voice quiet. 2-year residency. They want me to help curate a new collection and run workshops for local artists. And it's everything I ever dreamed of. Ivy nodded. Then go. Cassandra turned sharply. That's it. You're not going to ask me to stay. Do you want me to? I don't know. Cassandra's voice cracked. Part of me wants you to fight for this for us. Ivy reached out and took her hand. I'm not fighting against your dreams to keep you in mine. I promised I'd never be the reason you stayed small. You're not, but I could be. If I ask you to stay when the world's asking you to fly. It's not the world I care about, Cassandra whispered. It's you. I'll be here when you're done. Or when you want me to visit. Or if you want me to come with you. You'd move to Paris. I'd follow your voice anywhere, but only if it's you asking. Not your guilt. Cassandra leaned her forehead against Ivy's. I don't want to lose you. You won't. I'm not going anywhere, even if we're not in the same place. And what if the time apart breaks us? Ivy smiled softly. Then it wasn't strong enough to begin with. But I think we are. Cassandra didn't speak for a long time. The sky was dark by now, stars beginning to peek through. Then she whispered, Will you still wear the ring? Ivy raised her left hand, silver glinting faintly in the city light. I never took it off. Cassandra kissed her. Slow, gentle, final, but not ending. A beginning in disguise. 1 month later, they said goodbye at the airport. No drama, no scene, just a kiss that lingered too long and a promise spoken into words. Come back. Cassandra did. Not right away, but she called every day. Sent voice notes of rain against Paris windows, pictures of her studio, her paint-splattered hands, the cafes she wanted to see. Ivy wrote her letters, old-fashioned pages filled with words she didn't always say out loud. On Cassandra's birthday, Ivy flew to Paris with no announcement and showed up at the gallery with a single sunflower and an expression that said, You are still my favorite work of art. Cassandra cried. They made love that night like it was the first time all over again. And this time, when Ivy whispered, Marry me, Cassandra whispered, Yes. 3 years later, they said their vows in a garden washed with every color Cassandra had ever painted, and every story she had ever written. Ivy didn't walk down the aisle. She rolled with pride, her chair dressed in ivy and yellow silk. Cassandra met her halfway. They stood side by side, rings already warm in their palms, hands trembling together. There were no speeches, just a promise, soft and sure. Whatever comes next, we choose it together. And that was enough. Not a fairy tale. A life honest, flawed, glorious, and theirs. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, consider clicking the thanks button below, the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you.